I'll title this video the Rwandan Lawyer. It was very different to the Roy Lincoln Lawyer, the leader at DC3 at the time, this Christian Community Church, which is Hope Church now. And gone into Kenya, which I've shared on other videos. Genuine emergency, life or death situation. Not one single penny from anybody. Jaffa and his yardie gang threatening to burn my mother alive in her car the next time they saw her. And Mum was due to go into Uganda to get some paperwork signed so children from Rwanda and Uganda could remain in Kenya. But she delayed going into Uganda until I got there. So the situation with Jaffa and his yardie gang, that had been completely resolved. So we travelled into Uganda on the Friday night. Well, the Friday afternoon. We got there on the Friday night at nightfall, a place called Mukona, just outside Kampala. And they have their... there was a lot of trouble expected because all the elections are on in Uganda, and elections in Africa can always bring a lot of problems. All four warlords all rearing up, roadblocks, soldiers out everywhere. So anyway, we got into Kampala at nightfall, and they have their markets at night. Big marketplace, maybe 2,000 people plus. Gangs all around the marketplace, all giving me the eye. And I'm the only white person, the only white male. Mum went off to see if she could find a taxi. And I'm standing there with Aaron and Yasin. But I'm the only white person on the whole square. And it just happens also to be the same weekend of the South African elections, where over 300 years of white rule, oppression, apartheid, concentration camps, torture, and so forth was all being overturned in South Africa. And the Africans had warned that if helicopter gunships went into Soweto and whites started to gun down blacks, that they would drive every European into the sea. And standing there in Mukona, the Red Cross lorries, 3 big Red Cross lorries came rolling by because they were going off to the Rwandan border, obviously where genocide was taking place. And at that time you're probably maybe from Dis almost, not quite as far as Birmingham, but that's how far we were from the Rwandan border. And the RPF, the Tutsi Force, were in southern Uganda getting ready to go back into Rwanda against the Hutus, who were slaughtering all the Tutsis. So I'm standing on this square with 2,000 people, and I think now these people turn on their TVs and whites are gunning down blacks in South Africa. And I say, I'm not racial prejudiced. I've got a lot of African friends, Asian friends, Eastern European friends. I don't never judge a man by the colour of his skin. And but I thought, I'm going to become a symbol of everything these people hate about the West. The slavery, extortion, all extortion in Africa, white oppression. And that will just trigger them. And so anyway, we got a taxi, went up to Mukona's children's home. That was opened by Princess Anne. My mother was also a guest of honour because her work, with street children, orphans in Africa, and that was run by Save the Children's. And there were soldiers on the track going up to the Mukona's children's home, and put a machine gun in the window of the car where I was sitting, wanted to look at our papers, and then let us pass. And Sam was really pleased to see us. He was the founder of the Mukona's Children's Home. And he said, thank God you come, because they'll think you're VIPs from Save the Children, because they're poised to take over. If there's trouble in Uganda now during the elections, they will come in here, they will rape the young girls, they'll beat people, kick people out and kick us all out, because they want to use it as a garrison because it's in a strategic place. And he'd already moved provisions and the most vulnerable children down, near the Rwandan border. And like he said to my mum was quite oblivious to all that was going on. She just focused on children and so forth, bless her. And Sam said to her, you think Johnny's, he's a bit like in the Old Testament in Jeremiah, the prophet of doom, but that's how it is in Africa. If I hadn't moved provisions and trouble starts here now in Uganda, they would kill you just for the provisions. You could be killed just for the provisions. And in Africa, Pat, as he speak to me, Mum, he said, one day can be peace and the next day can be war. And the next day we went into Kampala, and Mum went off to see the advocate to see if the paperwork was ready, and I'm hoping it is, so we can get the next bus out and we won't be stuck in there during all the elections. And this man, I'm watching all people leaving Kampala because they don't know if trouble's coming, so everyone who can is getting out of Kampala on the buses that's near where the bus station is. And I was sitting in this cafe, and this gentleman came into the cafe, and he was looking around for somebody who obviously weren't there. So he came over and started talking to me. And he was a lawyer, he was a Tutsi, he was a lawyer for a petroleum company in Rwanda. And him and his 8-month pregnant wife, 3 children, had just been on holiday in Tanzania, just come back on the Wednesday. Hadn't even unpacked their bags, everything was fine. But on the Thursday, that night, someone shot down the plane. Someone pulled a trigger and shot down the plane with the president of Rwanda on the plane. So this triggered the genocide, and on the Thursday all hell broke loose. So their bags weren't even unpacked, so they just grabbed a few things and they fled for their lives. And they only just got out of Rwanda by the skin of their teeth. And he said, they were like the refugee crossing point into Uganda. There were over 2,000 people behind them. They were all massacred, hacked to death, gunned down. And they just lost their big house, cars, all their money was in accounts in Rwanda. They didn't know how any of their friends or relatives, were still alive who were Tutsi. And they knew if the Hutus had caught them, his wife 8 months pregnant, his children, himself, they would have been massacred. And he looked at me with so much reality. I've never seen so much reality in someone's face. He had about the equivalent of £2 left to his name, just lost everything. And yet he looked at me and he said, I thank God so much that we're alive and we're together. So that was quite a testimony that people through this virus that's hitting the UK, can stand to lose everything. Some people have lost everything, even their lives, but people will stand to lose everything. But this guy's standing there, thanking God so much that they're alive, and he's still got his, family. And that, his wife and 3 children came in, and then Mum came in, and the advocate hadn't got the paperwork ready. It wouldn't be ready till the Wednesday, so we were going to be stuck in Uganda at the worst possible time. So we asked for DC3 and the Roy Lincoln Lawyer and the post office and all that, saying that my gun was a hoax and I was a fake. And Royal Mail, Post the Assassins, going around this saying that I'd gone on a luxury holiday in the sun, staying in a nice hotel, having sex with black hookers, grooming young girls, abusing children on a Fred West Sutcliffe holiday, which none of this was true. All paid for by people of Dis and the churches. Again, not true. My trip was self-funded, not 1 penny from anybody. And had these false allegations been true, then I would have served at least 18 months of a 3-year sentence, according to Dis police. But I didn't see any of my accusers when I was standing at the square with 2,000 people. or when I was in Kampala. And like I say, you stand there with 2,000 people just down the road. Women and children, the elderly, are all being hacked to death. Mass graves you could put the population of this into, over 8,000 in 7 mass graves. People hiding in mass graves to avoid being massacred. People dancing with fiendish delight in their victims' blood. Real demonic, evil manifestation, genocide of the very worst kind. And we went and visited James and Jaya that night, and had a meal with them, had a chat, and I went and had a lay down in the spare room. We were stopping there night and just went and laid down. As I laid there, the Spirit of the Lord just flowed over me, almost like an electrical current, just going up and down me. And as I closed my eyes in the Spirit, I could see a woman standing there at nightfall with her children, knowing that the Hutu were coming, and just the look on her face just summed up everything that was taking place in Rwanda. And it came out of my spirit, came such a roar, if I could have stood between her and the men coming to slaughter her and her children. And the next day I met Abraham, a good friend of my mum's. He's a brilliant guy. He went in the prisons, really good minister out on the streets and so forth. And we were walking through the streets of Kampala. We're going to this church in Kampala, and Abraham stops. Whilst we're going through, he says, "Is there anything I should know, Johnny?" And it was just like out of the Old Testament when Abraham, was walking with the Lord. Abraham asked the Lord, "Is there anything I should know?" And then the Lord shared to him about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah was coming, because the place was so full of evil, depravity, violence, and the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah had reached heaven, and it was unredeemable. So God was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and judgment was coming. And Abraham says to the Lord, "Well, if there's 50 righteous people trying to intercede for the cities, if there's 50 righteous people, will you spare the cities?" The Lord said yes. And Abraham said, "What about if there's 40? The Lord said yes. What about if there's 30? The Lord said yes. What about if there's 20? The Lord said yes. What about if there's 10? The Lord said, "Yeah, I'll spare the cities." But there weren't even 10 righteous people in these 2 big cities. Such was the depravity. And men will sink to any level of depravity, those who are without God, and can be full of evil. And Jesus even likens these days to the days of Noah, also to the time of sorrows. And in the days of Noah, God looked on the earth, and it grieved him it ever even made man, because his heart was only filled, every intention in the hearts of men was only to do evil. And the earth was full again of depravity and violence. So, God redeemed those he could, and then the flood came, the global judgment came. So now I said to Abraham as I'm walking through the streets of Kampala, and you can see all the scars from Idi Amin's brutal reign and on the buildings and all that. And he was telling me, how the lights used to dip in Kampala. There's so many bodies being thrown into the source of the Nile, even the crocodiles were bloated. And when the lights dimmed in Kampala, that's when they were removing all the bodies from the filters in the hydroelectric power station. So I said to him, "Well, I think you have got trouble coming. I feel there is trouble in the winds." And so anyhow, we went to this big church, and again they just asked me to greet the church. So I got up, and again I was asked if there was anything on my heart, anything I wanted to share with the church. So I said to him, "I do think you have trouble coming. You need to prepare." And obviously in Uganda, they're not playing church, an African church. They know what trouble is. And there were 4 apostles in this church who confirmed the word that trouble was coming. And then this whole church just broke into spontaneous prayer. They know how to break through with God in the Spirit. They know how to break through and call down the provision and the spiritual strength to withstand, the storm that is coming. Not just to practically prepare, but spiritually prepare, to get filled with the Spirit of God, God's grace, His Spirit, His power, His strength, His peace to endure, the coming storm. So yeah, that was quite intriguing. Anyhow, God bless, and I say the worst is yet to come. It's written in Scripture. We have been pre-warned of all that's going to come onto the earth, in the end times, and right up till the time of the Great Tribulation. And that is such a tribulation, unless the storm is coming. Unless God intervenes, no one would survive. So that is a time for us to prepare spiritually, prepare practically, to be in tune with God, to listen to God in our situation, pray about our situation, and seek God's wisdom. Anyhow, God bless, take care, look after yourselves, keep safe, and we'll speak again soon. Bye.